one of my friends asked me this question. So he was like, so God created Adam and Eve.
Mm-hmm.
So we are now in the first chapter of the Bible.
Yeah.
So God created Adam and Eve, and then he knew they were going to sin, but he still created them.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, why would he do that? It's like, and he, like, even though he gave us the free will,
Mm-hmm.
he still knew we are going to choose this because God knows everything.
Mm-hmm.
He knows what is going to happen and what we are going to choose.
Yeah.
So then, like, why would he make some like make it then? Like, why would he create us? Like, why would he create them, even though he knew they were going to sin?
Yeah. Um, that's a good question. It's, I think, a difficult one to consider because we do, like, part of the belief in the Christian God is that he is omniscient. He knows everything. So he
Yeah.
sees the future.
Yep.
He sees the past and the future together. And so, yeah, it's not hard to then come to the conclusion that, well, then he knew Adam and Eve were going to sin and we're going to completely doom all of humanity. So why did he do it in the first place? I think it's the reason that he created humans is to now this may, I think what I think the reason he created humans is to bring him glory.
Yeah.
Bring himself glory. And now you might be thinking like, oh, he's so selfish. Like why would you create something just to look like, that's like if I made a cookie that looked like me. Like, guys, look at this cookie. It looks like me. You'd be like, Alex, you are. Oh man, maybe that's not a good example. But the thing with God is, we are as humans His image bearers. It says in Genesis, "Let us create man in our image," and so. So that's the first. I think that's the first thing is like he created humans to bring himself glory because he's worthy of it. He's worthy of all praise. And it's hard for us as humans to think about, especially us like from like this modern day. It's hard to think of humans worshiping something and us to think like that's okay.
Yeah.
Because I even kind of like, we see maybe human people worshiping or like praising a person or a leader, and we think that could get out of hand, or that's just kind of strange. So then it's kind of hard for us to associate that with God. But the thing is, God is the only one, the only thing, the only deity that's actually worth our praise and our glory, because if he's the one who created everything, set the world into motion, holds the world in his hands, then he's worthy of our praise. The same way that if I go to a beach and make a sand castle for ants to come and live in, I know ants are builders, they can build their own thing, but let's just say this thing, like, in the same way, these ants, they can look at me and say like, wow. That's not a good example. Imagine, like, I love playing, I used to. I still build Legos because they're cool. I don't play with Legos anymore. I used to play with Legos. And I had these, like, the little Legos. Imagine I have the power to bring this Lego to life. And it lives, and it has life. That Lego, it wouldn't be here without me. So then it worshiping me is totally, like, okay.
Makes sense,
Yeah, so in that analogy, without God, we would be nothing. So he is worthy of our praise. So I think God created humans for that purpose. Now, you move on to, well, we sinned. Adam and Eve, they were deceived and they sinned. And so why? I think that you can see how it ties to Jesus and ultimately, the sin of Adam brought the salvation from Christ and the grace. And so we see God's great grace fully realized in Christ. And that has problems in its own of coming to, like, understanding, well, then what's the point? Like, if we never sinned, then we never would have needed Jesus, so why? I think it's a hard question, but ultimately, I believe humans have free will. We always have. And without free will, we would just be robots.
Yeah.
And humans had a free will to listen to the devil. They had their will to eat that fruit.
Yep.
God didn't separate the fruit and put it behind caged bars, put it in, like...
Because some people even say it was a test for the human beings, or one of the first tests, if God would see if we'd even take it to begin with. But yeah, we did. So.
Yeah.
I also remember one thing from, was it Genesis or Exodus? Like the beginning of Old Testament, when Moses was saving Israelites from Egypt, and there were Egyptian, not king, like the leader, ruler, and God was speaking to Moses, saying to him, like, go and say this. I will give you the ability to turn the water in the whole Egypt into blood. And you will go and say to this, like, ruler of the whole Egypt that, like, you will do this, but I will make the heart of this ruler more, like, harsh, so he will not listen to you. And it's kind of like, God, you're just, like, playing with me, like, as I'm a toy. Like, why are you doing it? Like, if I was Moses, that's what I would ask. But I think that's the thing, is that just, like, I don't know how to make a proper conclusion from this, but I think that's also, like, shows in this, like, Moses story, it shows the character of God that we can also apply for the Adam and Eve. Is that, like, God knows what we will do and how we will fail, but he also maybe he wants us to go through it, to learn something, to love him more. Maybe, like, it is a very good and hard question to answer. But
that was
I think once again with that, the Exodus, when God hardened Pharaoh's heart, the miracles, the great miracles that happen in the Exodus, the locusts and eventually the parting of the Red Sea, again, all just points to God's glory, right? Like, if the Israelites they were oppressed, and they were taken, and they were really pressed down, and God said, I'll continue to harden Pharaoh's heart. I think to your point, it's like it's to continually help us to rely on the Lord. Like, every single one of these plagues that God brought upon Egypt, the Israelites were not affected by it.
okay.
It like they lived in this land called Goshen, and it was like almost like whenever the cattle all died and, like, the hail fell, none of the Israelites' cattle or hail fell. And why is that? It's because the Israelites were God's chosen people, are God's chosen people, and now, like, in Christ, we as believers, we are God's chosen people as well. And so, in that sense, God hardened Pharaoh's heart, and that's from the mouth of Moses. Moses wrote Exodus, so, like, we know, like, Moses was talking with God. No other Old Testament prophet person has a closer relationship than Moses had with God. So we know that that's probably reliable to believe that, but it is a difficult thing to think about. Like, even when Jesus ultimately is walking the earth and he's preaching, he quotes, I think it's from Isaiah, when he says, like, but I will I will close the eyes, I will close their ears so they cannot hear, lest they turn to me. And it's
Yeah.
thinking like, what? Why would God want people to turn to Him? So it's a difficult thing. I don't know if I have a good answer at the moment, but
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
That's fine.
yeah.
It's cool.
Also, it can be like why God make it, one guy make it this pharaoh got hard because God saw that what Egyptians do to Israel all of these times. Then he decided to make it even. So like I said, you are hurting my sons, you're hurting my people. Then I will hurt you. I will hurt your son. And then he killed. After that, he killed every firstborn of the Egyptians.
Mm-hmm.
So like teach us maybe about that everything, everybody will get the price what they did.
Mm.
So eventually. So even you do bad stuff, maybe not now, but after all, God will come and say, I came. Now you'll be ready. That.
Yeah.
Yeah, the story was very like greatly visualized by Bible projects. You know this YouTube channel, and I
Yes.
just wanted to mention it not for no reason. It's just like for new Christians. Like I when we were having the alpha course about how to read Bible, it was mentioned by Vincent, and he like so yeah. Basically, when I now read the Bible, like and I about to start a new chapter, like watching Bible projects about this chapter before reading it, it just changed. It's like now I can read without thinking, like because sometimes you read some like verse and you just like don't understand. But like if you have some bigger picture already of the whole like story, then it's just easier to to go through Bible and to understand it more and like
Yeah.
more pay attention to some smaller details.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So Alex, do you have some for new Christians? I said Gleb, some recommendation from which book to start? Bible.
Yeah. The Bible doesn't read like a normal book, so I would not recommend starting on page 1, for if it's your first time reading it, and that's just because there's a lot of. I mean, you will probably read through Genesis and Exodus, and then once you get to Leviticus, you'll stop because there's a lot of confusing things, and
Yeah.
especially for a new believer, I would recommend, or anyone, if it's your first time reading the Bible, the book of Mark or Matthew are 2 good places to start. These are Gospels. They talk about
Yeah.
it's about the life of Jesus. Mark is really short. It's just 16 chapters, and it exemplifies the life of Christ, what it's all about. Yeah, that's where I would recommend starting.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I feel like those are kind of easy and understandable chapters too, compared
Yeah.
to like the Old
Yeah,
Testament.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
It's usually like genealogies, and it's like
Yeah, sometimes you read Old Testament and it's like, wow, what a hard world. Like, wow,
Yeah,
that's so
yeah.
different.
it's mostly like what a hard world it is.
As you get so depressed, like, oh no. And then you
Yeah.
read New Testament, like,
Yeah.
hope.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good one.
Gleb, we were talking earlier about what was your question and comment about the
Matthew.
Yeah, Matthew, but then we're also talking about like maybe we can talk about Matthew.
Yeah, so in Matthew 17:21, so if you have the like NIV Bible,
Yes.
most probably you don't have Matthew 17:21. Oh, I opened right here actually.
You don't
Thanks
have-
Lord for
Wow.
helping.
Thanks,
So-
Lord.
There is 20. He replied because so it's I don't remember the context actually, but it's healing of a boy with a demon. I think here like Jesus speaking with his disciples. So he replied, because you have so little faith, I tell you the truth. If you have faith as small as a mustard seed,
Oh yeah, pretty
you can
famous verse.
say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible to you. But then it jumps from 20 to 22. And it's just like just another story going on. But what is 21? In this Bible, it's written like in the bottom of the page that like some scriptures say, but this kind does not go out except by prayer and fasting. And just like if you just first time reading it and realizing it, first thought could be just like that. This story is very powerful just to read and to understand. And it's like when you, like so we have so little faith that it doesn't even reach mustard seed. It's like so little, because if you have just this mustard seed faith, like size of it, then you can already move mountains. So our faith don't even reach this. But also, it says about prayer and fasting, and it's also like it's even more powerful to pray and fast, because it like increase your faith, I would say, makes it stronger. But yeah, what do you think, guys, about that? About just fasting in general, and
Can I first make a comment on why this
Sure.
is not included? I just did a quick search, but I think this is a quick, I consulted Google, which is always a great place.
Yeah, very trustworthy.
Not always a great place to find biblical knowledge. I couldn't quite get to any of my like commentaries, but this here, it said the reason that 21 isn't included is because in some of the early manuscripts we have of Matthew, of the Matthew scroll, don't include this, but later ones do. So
is it like an extra, like a completely different verse was added, or just a big one was split into two?
a sentence was added, essentially.
Okay.
And so I think that current what the biblical writers today, what they're doing is they compile these translations, is they're being true to the manuscripts once again, and saying like, okay, this is what we have from the earliest copies. It doesn't include it. But then we have 21 from later copies that does say this.
Okay.
And so I think it's, just which that you can I don't know how late it was, so you can kind of maybe think, was this, added by a later editor of Matthew or something? But does it turn away from the main meat of the passage? No, it doesn't. It just adds to it. But this kind never comes out except by prayer and fasting. So who knows the exact context of why? But that's why it's not included. But sorry. So back to prayer and fasting. What do you guys? Yeah, Gleb's question. What do you guys think?
Yeah, so there's this thing which you used to make fun of back home, whenever because my parents, my mom fasts, and me and my dad, we just used to say, God gave us everything to enjoy, so let's just eat. Why would you want to fast? So it's like God gave everything, and it's like, why do you want to like not use it? I'd say more of, if I phrase it correct. Like, because, okay, most of the people fast from eating. Because fasting is like not eating for a certain time, but it's like God who gave it to us for us to like nourish ourselves. So why would you not want to eat it, saying that I'm praising God?
So why fast at all? You're saying?
Yeah.
Because food is thanking and praising God. Is that what you're saying?
It's not like, but He gave it to us for us to eat. Like,
Yeah, he did.
eat. So
Yeah. So that's the saying that fasting isn't something that happens that we should. It doesn't say we should only fast then, because we need to eat.
like every day, just stop eating, guys. It's
And there's a Bible don't say fast. It say there's no command like a fast. Like if you want fast, you fast. If you don't want, it's good. But some people fast not because Jesus said to them to fast. They fast to feel God, to glorify God, to be thankful. Some people find their own, let's say, reason to fast. Personally, I try to fast because I want to overcome this. I like to eat, but I also have to overcome this habit habit that overeating
Oh yeah.
and concentrating on stuff, and God is the main stuff I should concentrate,
Mm-hmm.
and God will provide me with food. So from that,
Okay. Interesting.
I fasted a couple times, like one day no eat, no food, just like water, or sometimes like water and coffee. But I know that a lot of people said to me like after like that, oh, but coffee it's cheating. No, it's not, because it makes you dehydrated. It makes even worse. It's like just water is much better. But also when you fast, it's said also in the Bible, or just like I heard from someone, when you fast, you should not say to people. Like if they ask, yeah, it's okay to say, but not like Pharisees did, that fasting and they just like making, oh yeah, it is said in the Bible. When you fast, don't be like Pharisees, showing your tired face. Go wash your face so nobody see that you're fasting. Yeah, so,
So
but
wait, you're saying no one should know that we are fasting?
Well, I think it's what Jesus is saying is he's coming against the Pharisees' own self-righteousness, because what they were doing is they were fasting and they were then like making themselves look so miserable. And Jesus says like you'll already these people have already received their reward. So when we fast, and what's interesting is Jesus says when you fast, not if you fast. He says when you fast. So it's assumed about fasting that it's something that just it was assumed that it's what the Jewish listeners would do. They would fast, and so then it's also assumed that, as you know, we like you said, Yusuf, you don't have to, but Jesus fasted, Paul fasted, Peter fasted. These people fasted. I think it's a great practice for us to have. And ultimately, what it does, first of all, so when we fast, he just says like, you know, don't be like you can't tell. If it's not as though if someone finds out you're fasting, you know, you might as well eat because you failed. It's not like that.
Yeah.
Like it's like if Jordan, if you're fasting and I come up and I'll be like, hey, do you want to get lunch today? And you'll be like, just dodging it, like, oh no, I had lunch earlier or something, or like, oh, I have plans. It's like it's no problem for you to say, no, sorry, I'm fasting today. But if you're like, no, I am fasting to get closer to the Lord because I just wanna I wanna love Him and food is not important. Like that's the equivalent of what the Pharisees were doing.
Okay.
And so it's just
Like
like
more of boasting that
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
fasting.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
like seeking
Taking pride in it.
the
Yeah.
same
To
the
seek
same
God,
with
not,
giving, because it's
Yes,
like
exactly.
fasting is also sacrifice, and it's said in the Bible, your right, whatever, like
your-
your left hand
Make
should
it so
not
your left hand not
know
what your right hand's
what right hand is doing. The same with fasting and giving your teeth, because it's both sacrifice
Yeah.
for God.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why you should not like boast it, because
Yeah, but on fasting, so when you look at the disciples, the first church had a rhythm of, I think they fasted 2 times per week, 2 days
Okay.
per week.
Is it like a law written? No.
Sorry?
Is it like a rule or a law?
No, it's not. It's not like
Just
written.
a preference they
Yeah,
had.
yeah.
Okay.
It's just like a rhythm that they had of fasting, and I in my life have had times where I would fast once per week, and I haven't lately. But what the ultimate purpose of fasting, it's not to get an answer. I mean, sometimes there's like specific fasting where you like really dedicate yourself for a decision, or like a big thing or something. But ultimately, fasting, the purpose of fasting is just to get more of God. It grows your hunger for Him. And the reason that fasting is primarily for food, I know there's people who have dietary stuff where they can't always fast food. But the reason that it's food is because they're like, yeah, if I were to fast watching TV for a day or something, ultimately, I'll be fine. I'll find other ways of, entertaining myself, right?
Yeah.
But if I fast food, I will feel hungry.
True.
Like I can't get away from that. And when you do this, you feel this physical hunger that leads that you replace with like spiritual hunger, if that makes sense. So it's like, Lord, I'm hungry, but I'm hungry. I'm more hungry for you. When Jesus was fasting and the devil came and said, if you're really who you say you are, make this stone turn into a piece of bread and eat it.
Bread.
And he says, man does not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of,
that's true.
of God.
I just was looking for it.
Yeah. And so fasting brings about a spiritual hunger for the Lord. And it's something that I think a lot more of us should be doing.
Okay.
I'm talking to myself as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's more of us showing, like more maybe like thankfulness, maybe of what He has given.
So George Anka said a great thing about that. It's like, imagine that you are a villager in a kingdom, and someone came and, let's say, robbed you. And you come to the king and you say, hey, I have a problem right there, I cannot solve it myself. So here's my sacrifice, here's my, let's say, weekly crops that I like, and here's my like food that is like mine, but I give it to you, king. Could you please deal with that, because I cannot myself? And this is like a easy representation also of fasting, because it is a sacrifice, and like it really helps when you deal with something. I remember also when I was fasting like quite often, like also like once a week, from like one day no food, then I had something that I wanted to be solved, and I was praying for it, but I was like thinking, okay, I will fast. But then I heard like a message from God, not like I heard the voice, but just like I had this thought that about, if I will fast from food, I'm already kind of used to it. It won't be the same effect. But I want to try to fast from something that is really like, I see some like addiction.
Yeah,
And I fasted from social media for 3 days. And then it helped. And I know that if I would fast from food like for 2 days, most probably it won't be that helpful.
Someone also once told me about that. They were like, fasting is not. So it's not about like not eating, but it's about giving up something which you can't live with on an everyday life for God. So it's like, it's not just food you have to fast on. It's something which you desire the most. Maybe it's like, like social media, as you told. So it's like just more of self-control and giving it up for God.
Yeah. Well, I think naturally, if you give up something like social media, you will think clearer, and you'll hear from God maybe more, because I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm on social media quite a lot, and I find myself doom scrolling.
Yeah.
And it's just, I get in the trap and I can't get out.
It's an endless.
So when you get rid of that, like, I mean, especially if you're like thinking of it as a holy thing, you're gonna read the Bible instead of that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think it's a noble thing. More people should take times like this, try and lessen their social media intake. If you have an iPhone, I have an iPhone, or if you have I think Android maybe has it, I don't know, but you can set like limits for different apps and stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I do that. And so I make sure, like, I'm not just on it all day. Yeah.
Oh.
And, I have times where it's more difficult than others, where I'm like, just dumb video after next dumb video.
I mean, that's true, though. It's like social media is like. And thank you, AJ.
Yeah,
Thank you.
My
For
pleasure.
giving
Happy to be here. Happy to chat.
You are the first guest.
Such an honor.
Yes.
Yeah.
First of many.
So
Whoever
remember, when we get big, you'll know. It's the first.
Have me
episode.
back anytime, guys.
Yeah.
When it will come back, I think we already have it like properly set up, and everything will be. It will be already like in.
So we could do
in
online
New York.
with you.
Yeah,
totally.
online.
So-
Yeah, good. Okay, so that's it for today then.
All right.
See you guys.
Subscribe.
Subscribe to this book.
Yeah, subscribe.
Read it daily. It's very good.
Read with
Yep.
us. Pray with us.
Subscribe here. Yeah.
Bye.
See you next week.
God bless.